Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dakota, and this is a video I didn't think I'd be making, but I saw Zero Punctuation's video this week on Baldur's Gate 3, and then the follow-up Extra Punctuation video about romances in Baldur's Gate 3, and was struck by a few very unexpected curveballs in this set of videos. The main one being that Yahtzee didn't really do his due diligence in this game. I mean, granted, I know that he's a busy person and has a lot of other things that he works on and all that, but only having 1 week to play one of the largest games to come out in recent memory, or even just a game this big and this loaded with long-term consequences of your choices, I thought was kind of strange. Especially since he's played previous games from Larian that are in a similar style and have a lot of similar there will be consequences type of design. It seems odd to me that he really didn't give a little extra time to this one. I mean, I feel like he probably could have taken a little bit more time to do this. What's really embarrassing, I think, more than anything, is that IGN managed to give its reviewer for Baldur's Gate 3 enough time to actually complete the game before reviewing it. So when IGN is doing a better job at being a game critic than Ben Croshaw, Yahtzee, that's pretty sad, and I feel like you probably should rethink how you're doing things if you're falling behind IGN. And throughout his video, I mean, he does give the game a pretty solid pat on the back for being, you know, for doing something right, because it keeps him playing, it keeps him interested. But there are a few comments he makes that just flat out are laughable. I mean, he starts the video off. Rather the summary of the game off by talking about how being on an alien ship, it's like, did we come in the wrong door? But he plays D&D, and I know that this is like, he's still fairly new to D&D, but Mind Flayers are a pretty like iconic creature in D&D lore, so weird to me that he doesn't understand that. And he's going to try and sit here and say, well, I know D&D now, so I know how this game will work. Yeah, no. The game doesn't explain to me how sneak attacks work. Well, it does if you read, but you only took a week to play the game. Oh, you have to individually micromanage all your characters so that they'll all go into sneak. Or you could press Shift-C, since it tells you that that's how you do that. There's a button on the screen for it, too, also, to group sneak. So you missed obvious things that are in the game and are blaming the game for that. That's very like Game Grumps level, like missing obvious shit that's being explained to you because you have a limited time to play it. I would assume. And talking about how there's like doesn't seem to be a much of a freedom of choice because weaseling your way out of combat through dialogue only works sometimes. Right, because it's a D&D campaign that is centered around combat. It's not a D&D campaign that's totally freeform and you can try and seduce dragons. Well, maybe you can. I haven't gotten that far yet, but it's just funny to me that that a person who plays only one build, only one character type, and has no backup plan in case their primary strategy doesn't work, is very strange to me for a D&D player. So you're telling me that in D&D tabletop, you've never failed a fucking deception check? You've never once failed a deception check and had to fall back onto something else. Had to be prepared for combat. That's really strange to me. And you never built the rest of your team up enough to actually carry you through combat? Because the combat in Baldur's Gate 3 isn't that difficult. It's complicated, but you can bust that game wide open depending on your build. If you know what you're doing, which doesn't take long to figure out, by the way, because you can see what works against you, what enemies are really really strong enemies are doing to destroy you, and use that to your own advantage, because pretty much everything that enemies use, you'll be able to use some form of. Plus, you're a human player. You have way more intelligence than any of the AI in the game. You will find a way to break it. He talked about how he had to go find this leader from the Druid Grove, and the Druid wouldn't leave with him or consider the quest complete unless he stealth killed all the Goblin leaders, which he was not about to be able to do because they're surrounded by guards and everything. Which is hilarious, because you can absolutely stealth kill all of the leaders. I've done it multiple times on different playthroughs. I've actually gotten to the end of Act 1 so far on a playthrough where I have only 2 characters in my party. One of them is a stealth character, that's my main, and then I have Shadowheart as my backup. Like, that's it. So I don't know where he's getting off on that, but you also, funny enough, he's thinking too video gamey while saying that he's coming at this game from a D&D perspective, which is hilarious. Because just because you've been given a quest does not mean you have to complete it. You can absolutely go through the whole game without ever rescuing Halsin, the Druid leader. You can go through the rest of the game without ever fucking even meeting him. I don't recommend it because there's serious consequences for it, but you absolutely can. There's no reason to say that you couldn't. And if you were having such trouble deceiving your way out of combat with goblins, I find that very difficult to believe, given the fact that you can pretty much use the Illithid Tadpole to weasel your way out of literally everything with any absolutist cultist. So you could have allied with him, even. I don't know what your character's morals are. You never spoke about that. He never spoke about it in the video, so I have no idea what the character's morals are. I don't know what, if he would join the Absolute, or if he would, infiltrate the Absolute and destroy them from within, or what the hell, or if he would help the Tieflings at the beginning. Who knows? But I find it very hard to believe that you built a deception-based character and can't deceive your way out of more combats than you had. But you also have to understand that, again, this is a D&D campaign. This Baldur's Gate 3 campaign is a D&D campaign that is combat focused. There are a lot of creatures, and these are not exclusive to Baldur's Gate. They are in D&D. There are a lot of creatures that cannot be reasoned with. There are creatures that you can only be able to convince them of something if you side with them completely. Like Minthara, one of the goblin leaders, she cannot be reasoned with. She is a psycho. She's nuts. You cannot avoid killing her unless you don't complete the quest line or you side with her. That's this because she's insane. Then you have the Minotaurs. He even spoke about how he ran into the Minotaurs in the Underdark. You can't reason with Minotaurs. They will just kill you. There's a spectator fight down there. You can't reason with spectators. They will kill you. There are several creatures. There's constructs which can't be spoken to. There's tons of creatures who don't have any form of sentience and cannot be spoken to on any level. You can't reason with that. You're going to get murdered. So you have to have a backup plan. The loading screens even tell you that you need to diversify your party in order to take on the variety of combat and dialogue challenges that you'll be faced with. So your inability to take those basic steps of understanding, probably again due to your limited playtime, is really on you. I don't think that's really fair to mark that against the game itself. That's more on you than anything. On top of that, I saw the extra punctuation video about the romances in Baldur's Gate, and this is where I really, really got frustrated. The zero punctuation video on Baldur's Gate is fine. It's not that egregious. It's laughable that he really screwed up this hard as far as doing his due diligence towards the game and everything. But what's really frustrating is the romance part, where he talks about how romances in Baldur's Gate 3 are pointless. Now,
No one does.
when it is a clickbaity title and doesn't quite say what the video is really about, but
I'm fine. Stop
the video itself isn't a whole lot better because he talks about how how a couple of characters kind of threw themselves at him
It's not much, but here.
very early in the game, even though he barely did anything. He wasn't doing anything like really in character for his character that was like that would make it so that he was really feeling like he was connected to the character's romance and everything. But again, you played one character,
Yeah.
and the one character that you ended up actually romancing
For helping.
was Lae'zel, the easiest character to romance in the game,
I was fine.
which you find out later why she is so easy to romance, why she just fucks you in Act 1 super easy, because you get rejected by other characters in the game early on.
You pup.
You don't get that sudden like connection with characters, with other characters. Every character is unique. And if you want to make the argument, which he kind of does, if you want to make the argument that the sex scenes themselves are pointless, I think in some cases that's fair. In some cases, it is fair to say that the sex scenes themselves are pointless. I wouldn't say that's entirely true across the board because there are sex scenes, weirdly enough, in Baldur's Gate 3 that serve as a form of character development. It sounds strange, I know, but once you've seen the different romance scenes that these characters have, because it's not just sex scenes, there's also like there's dates that you go on and stuff like that. There's just there are important character beats that happen if you romance characters. Once you see all those scenes, you'll understand just how insanely deep all of this is. And some of them are just sex. Some of them are just sex scenes. Some of them aren't even just gratuitous sex, though. Some of them are very weird. But all of your decisions regarding who you have sex with, who you romance, who you flirt with, all that stuff, they all have consequences throughout the game. And because, based on the review, it seems like Yahtzee only got through, not even through, but got into Act 1 and wasn't really getting that far. It seems to me like he didn't do his due diligence, only romanced one character, didn't really romance her either, just had a fling with her, and was trying to judge the merit of the entire game's romances on that one interaction. It's a much more egregious version of only playing one build that isn't designed for this kind of campaign, and saying that the game doesn't offer you freedom of choice. Very, very absurd, very silly, very strange. Now, he also does go on to say that Gale kind of threw himself at him and was giving him this weird like magic scene where his only options were to picture him kissing Gale or kicking Gale in the gut, which is patently untrue and just further proof that Yahtzee didn't really give this game the time and attention or even research and go over his own footage from the game to figure out where he can pull evidence from, because it's not true. If you get to that scene with Gale, you have 5 options. Now, 2 of them are romantic, 2 of them are violent, and one of them is to just picture nothing. He claimed that there was no way to just not have any reaction to it in character, and that's just wrong, and it's dishonest, and it's misleading, and it's really frustrating for a critic who, by the way, is my favorite game critic in the scene. It's really frustrating to see him be so inept at something that I think he's very, very skilled at. It's go back and play the game again from the start, and don't play as a non-combat capable character unless you plan to just ignore quests entirely that could lead to combat and just talk your way through the game. I'm honestly kind of baffled that he would drop the ball this fucking hard when it comes to reviewing one of the biggest games of the year. Um, and again, be completely outpaced and outclassed by IGN. Very strange. Very, very odd. And he's trying to claim that the actual play movement of people playing D&D tabletop and streaming it and people tuning in to watch it, he's claiming that that's responsible for a lot of its popularity, which is really weird to me because a lot of the people playing Baldur's Gate 3 are not D&D fans, and I can practically guarantee everybody who watches these actual play D&D series are D&D fans. I don't watch them. I don't like them. I don't find them that entertaining. Most of the friends that I have that play Baldur's Gate 3 do not watch these D&D actual play campaigns. They a lot of them don't even play D&D, and it's funny to hear Yahtzee echoing the sentiments of Zelavier, Nelson Jr., the guy from Twitter that I talked about in my last video. Very weird, because again, there's no evidence to back up that there's any overlap. If you look through Steam reviews of Baldur's Gate 3, most of them don't mention anything about D&D. They just talk about the stupid fucking things you can do in this game, like beating a goblin chief to death with a goblin child. It's great. But I just want to make this video to talk about that specifically. Like, do your due diligence. Play the game to its fullest. I know it takes time, but it is your job. Some rando on the internet shouldn't be reminding you that your job is to play games to their fullest in order to give them a proper critique. You should be doing this. I get that, 10 years ago you made a video that was a positive review, and it didn't do as well as your other videos. So ever since then, you've been trapping yourself in this mindset of like, I can only make aggressively cynical videos because it's the only thing that sells. But maybe you should try growing a bit. Maybe you should try stepping out of your box and pushing the envelope a little bit, adjusting your format a little bit, maybe trying to actually play video games again, instead of playing Act 1, which has been in early access for 3 years now, prior to release, and claiming that you know how the game is. Absolutely brain dead take, frankly. So yeah, if you haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 yet, anyone who's watching, go play it. It's really fun. It's not for everyone. I've said this before. It's not for everyone, but it is a great game. It's not going to ask anything more of you financially. It's not gonna, it's not gonna waste your time, and you can do very, very stupid, silly things in the game. And if your first attempt at a character build doesn't work out, diversify it. Diversify your team even to support the character build you're going for. Yahtzee seems to have built a bard, and I don't know what college subclass he went with, but I find it very, very difficult to believe that he built a bard that was not capable of anything combat-wise, because bards are insane. And my girlfriend plays a College of Swords bard warlock multi-class that is absolutely devastating in combat. College of Swords by itself is fucking strong as hell, but then adding in the warlock on top of it, she can do very, very insane combinations, and she's really cool. And I mean, I'm playing a pure fighter build. I've also have a Draconic Bloodline sorcerer that's really fun. I have a couple of monks that I've played as that are monks are broken. They're so powerful. And I just build my team around what I think I need. If I don't have good melee on my main, I'll bring a melee character, origin character with me. If I don't have a good caster, I'll bring Gale, because he's the best caster. But yeah, go play the game. Mess around. Screw around with it. This whole, like, just roll with your mistakes. You don't have to. It depends on what the mistakes are. Obviously, if your party is getting pounded into a pulp, you have to reload a save. But if you just want to pass speech checks and you want to save scum it, there's no shame in that. Play the game the way you want to. That's how it's meant to be played, is that Larian wants you to just get the most out of the game regardless of how you do that. So thank you all so much for watching, and maybe we'll have another video soon. Who knows? Bye.